My parents died in a car crash, leaving me and my little sister with a mountain of debt. Thankfully, right after college, I landed a job with a Fortune 500 company as the personal assistant to the CEO. With a break this huge, it felt like my sister and I could finally stop worrying about the future. The last person I expected to see in the CEO's chair was Lillian Vance, my first love, who'd been studying abroad for the last 3 years. Faced with my ex-girlfriend's advances, all I wanted to do was run. But I never imagined there'd be a traitor in my own house. My own sister, the one I'd worked so hard to raise, drugged me for Lillian. When I came to, I saw Lillian beside me, a gentle smile on her face. In that moment, my heart felt impossibly heavy. But the real shock came when Lillian told me that my closest online confidant, the one who'd been giving me advice all this time, was her. And getting me hired as her assistant? That was all we're doing, too. Hey, big bro, look what your dear little sister got for you. In the small 2-bedroom apartment we shared, I was slumped on the couch, watching the girl who'd just emerged from my room, her face beaming with excitement. I had no idea what she was so happy about. Tada! Chloe Graham held out her phone, urging me to look. My eyes widened as I read the message on the screen. I shot up, snatching the phone from her to make sure I wasn't seeing things. A huge grin spread across my face as I looked back at her. I got the job, and it's with a Fortune 500 company. As assistant to the CEO? You're not dreaming, bro. So, aren't you going to thank your amazing sister? If I hadn't submitted your resume, you'd be working construction tomorrow. Chloe said, her hands on her hips, looking ridiculously pleased with herself. But she didn't get the praise she was expecting. I reached out and playfully squished her chubby cheeks. Chloe Graham, who told you to send out my resume, behind my back. I'll let it slide this time. But if you ever hide something like this from me again, I'm going to have to lay down the law. I was a little annoyed she'd done it without telling me. A guy who graduated from a state school had no business getting into a company like this. But since they'd actually hired me, the annoyance was quickly drowned out by sheer joy. 3 years ago, my parents' business went bankrupt. Not long after, they died in a car accident, leaving behind almost $400,000 in debt. I was just a freshman in college. Faced with that kind of debt, my first thought was to drop out and start working. But just as I was about to, the creditors suddenly changed their tune. They told me they weren't in a rush and that I could pay them back within 3 years of graduating. It seemed too good to be true, but I was too desperate to question it. Still, for those 3 years of college, I worked every part-time job I could find to start chipping away at the principal. I had a little sister just starting high school to think about, after all. Luckily, the insurance payout from the accident was a few $100,000, which helped us get by. Now, a month after graduation, I'd sent my resume everywhere with nothing but silence in return. I had resigned myself to starting that construction job tomorrow. I never expected my little sister to pull off a miracle like this. An assistant to the CEO of a major corporation. The salary had to be in the high 6 figures at least. Even with my less than stellar degree, I could probably pull in over $500,000 a year, right? At that rate, I could pay off my parents' debt in less than 3 years. Thinking about it, I couldn't wait for my first day. Ignoring my sister, who was still preening on the couch, I hurried into my room to share the good news with my online confidant. She'd added me on a messaging app right after my parents died. Around the same time, I broke up with my girlfriend who was studying abroad. This woman who had suddenly appeared in my life became my biggest source of motivation. We'd never met in person, but from the picture she sent, she was a genuine knockout. What touched me most was that when I told her about my situation, she wasn't put off at all. Instead, she encouraged me every single day. After 3 years, I considered her my closest friend. I told her everything that happened in my day, and she did the same. I knew she was the CEO of a publicly traded company with over 1,000 employees. You online, sis? What's up? I have great news. I got a job. No construction sites for me tomorrow. Omega, hey. That fast. I was about to offer you a job at my company if you couldn't find anything. I appreciate the offer, sis, but we agreed we'd never meet in person. If I work for you, we have to see each other. Meanwhile, in a penthouse office in a skyscraper in the heart of Manhattan, Lillian Vance, a woman with a figure that could stop traffic, stood before the floor-to-ceiling windows, a faint smile playing on her lips as she gazed out at the city. Connor, she whispered, we're going to see each other tomorrow. And this time, I won't let you escape my grasp. The next morning, I was up early. It was my first day, so I showered and put on my best clothes. Before leaving, I made sure to wake up my sister, who was still sleeping in, and tell her to get some breakfast. I stepped out of our apartment building, hailed a cab, and gave the driver the address. As the car moved through the city, my stomach was in knots. Honestly, I still had so many questions. Why didn't this company need an interview? Why can't I just start today? Logically, Every business has an interview process. Was this company that desperate for people? The thought barely formed before I dismissed it. A Fortune 500 company, desperate for staff? No way. Lost in my thoughts, the taxi soon arrived at its destination. Ethel Corporation. Staring up at one of the most magnificent skyscrapers in Manhattan, I felt a wave of dizziness. Starting today, this was where I would work. Hi, I'm here for my first day, I said to the woman at the front desk, showing her my offer letter. The receptionist's eyes widened for a second when she saw me, freezing on the spot. She quickly recovered, however, offering a professional smile. Of course. Please wait a moment while I contact someone to take you up, Ms. Jacobs had already told her the CEO's new personal assistant was starting today. She just hadn't expected him to be this handsome. She wondered if he had a girlfriend. The elevator doors chimed open, and a woman in a sharp business suit walked out briskly. Ms. Jacobs, this is him. You must be Connor Graham. Hello. I'm the CEO's executive assistant. Come with me. Ms. Jacobs glanced at me, gave a brief introduction, and led me into the elevator. The elevator shot straight to the top floor. Along the way, Ms. Jacobs gave me a quick rundown of the company and my new role. Personal assistant to the CEO. Hearing personal assistant was a relief. With my qualifications, I could never handle being an executive assistant. But a personal one. I just hoped the CEO wasn't too picky. Knock, knock, knock. Enter. Connor, the CEO, is inside. You can go in by yourself. Hearing the cool, clear voice from within the office, Ms. Jacobs gave me a final instruction and hurried away. But I remained frozen in place, my hand hovering over the doorknob. That voice. Why did it sound so much like my ex-girlfriend's? Connor, why haven't you gone in? Don't keep the CEO waiting. Ms. Jacobs, now holding a stack of files, passed by again and frowned, urging me forward. Right. I pushed the speculation out of my mind. It couldn't be. My ex-girlfriend was still overseas, and I was the one who broke up with her. If she knew it was me, why would she possibly hire me? Besides, her family was well off, but there was no way they could own a massive corporation like this. Shaking off the ridiculous idea, I took a deep breath, turned the handle, and walked in. As I entered the office, the first thing I saw was a woman sitting at a massive desk, reading through a file. But it wasn't her that caught my eye. It was the pair of long, black stocking legs propped up casually on the desk. I immediately lowered my gaze. Good morning, ma'am. I'm a new personal assistant, Connor Graham. I introduced myself respectfully and stood there, my head bowed, waiting. But instead of words, I heard the click-clack of high heels on the floor, getting closer and closer. Soon, a pair of perfectly straight legs stopped right in front of me. While I was still processing, a hand gently lifted my chin. When I saw her face, my eyes went wide. Lillian Vance. Connor, it's been a long time. Lillian's fingers traced the outline of my face, a face she had missed for so long. A faint smile touched her lips. You. Snapping back to reality, I stumbled backward, my gaze a complicated mix of emotions as I stared at the ex-girlfriend I hadn't seen in 3 years. Only one thought was racing through my mind. She hired me as her assistant to get revenge. Seeing me retreat, a shadow of disappointment crossed Lillian's eyes. She returned to her chair and looked at me, her expression full of a quiet sorrow. He's gotten even more handsome, she thought, but he was so heartless when he left me. Silence filled the vast office. Neither of us spoke. After what felt like an eternity, I couldn't stand her wounded gaze any longer. Ms. Vance, if there's nothing else, I'll be leaving. As far as I was concerned, this whole job offer was just a way for her to humiliate me for what I'd done. A bitter smile formed on my lips. Thinking back to how cruelly I'd abandoned her, maybe I deserved it. Just as I reached for the doorknob, Lillian's voice stopped me. Connor, can we get back together? My hand froze on the handle. I had no idea what she was playing at. Connor, you need money, right? Be with me. I can clear your debt, and I'll give you $100,000 a month for spending money. Any flicker of hope I might have had was instantly extinguished, replaced by a surge of anger. Ms. Vance, are you trying to buy me? Because that's not going to happen. I wasn't going to listen to another word. I pulled the door open, ready to leave, but a pair of arms wrapped around me from behind, and the door was gently pushed shut. Connor, I'm not trying to buy you, she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. I just want to go back to how things were. Can we please get back together? Her choked-up plea made me pause. I realized I'd misunderstood her, but my heart was still a tangled mess. Whatever we had, we couldn't go back. We were from 2 different worlds now. Let go, Ms. Vance. We can't go back. I reached down to pry her hands off my waist, determined to leave. But her next words stopped me dead in my tracks. Connor, if you walk out that door, How are you going to pay your debt? I paid off what your parents owed a long time ago. The person you owe now is me. If you don't work here, you'll never pay me back in 3 years. Lillian's words sent my mind reeling. It took me a long moment to process it. No wonder. Right after my parents died, the creditors had been at our door every day, demanding payment. Then, just a few days later, they all suddenly changed their tune. It was Lillian. It was all her. You were the one who dealt with my family's creditors? I asked, even though I already knew the answer. I was. And just a few days after that, Connor, you broke up with me and deleted my number. Her words made my face burn with shame. But even if I hadn't broken up with her then, we never would have worked out. It would have just been a waste of her time. And then there was that incident. Thinking of it, the guilt that had just started to surface vanished. My voice was calm as I replied, "Thank you for your help back then, Ms. Vance. Since I owe you the money now, I'll pay you back within 3 years. I won't disturb your work any longer." I turned to leave again. Connor, there isn't a single company in New York that will hire you right now. If you walk out that door, the only way you'll make money is by hauling bricks at a construction site. The money you'd make there would barely be enough to support you and Chloe, let alone pay me back in 3 years. And besides, if you walk out on this job today, you wouldn't want Chloe to be heartbroken, would you? A threat. A blatant, naked threat. So that's why. I had a degree from a decent school, and all my classmates had landed internships. But for the past month, I'd sent my resume to every company in the city and gotten nothing. Even jobs as a security guard or a restaurant server were out of reach. The only place that would take me was a construction site. It was all her. Fine. Connor Graham doesn't back down from threat. I'd rather haul bricks than work in the same office as you. My mind made up, I opened the door and strode toward the elevator. Just as I got there, I ran into Ms. Jacobs. Her eyes lit up when she saw me. She handed me a file. "Connor, could you give this to Ms. Vance for me? I have to run." "Thanks." Before I could refuse, the elevator doors closed. There was only one elevator to the penthouse. If I wanted to go down, I had to either wait for the next one or take the stairs. But this was the 100th floor. If I took the stairs, my legs would be useless tomorrow. My eyes fell to the file in my hands. I figured I might as well give it to Lillian and then leave. But as my gaze scanned the document's title, The Gateway Development Project, a terrible feeling washed over me. The construction site I was supposed to start at. Wasn't that the Gateway Development? I walked back into Lillian's office. This time, her expression was perfectly calm, as if the emotional scene from moments before had never happened. "Just put the file here. Are you leaving?" she asked, her tone completely different. I couldn't help but marvel at how quickly she could change. Still, I had to ask, "Ms. Vance, this Gateway Development Project." "Oh, right. I forgot to tell you." Lillian cut in smoothly. "The construction site you were planning to work at? That's my project, too. Since you enjoy physical labor so much, you can do it anywhere. I'll even pay you double." This time, I saw a flicker of amusement in her eyes. I had no energy to analyze it. My face was dark as I marched over to her desk, braced my hands on her chair's armrests, and leaned in, glaring at her. "Lillian Vance, you." My sudden move seemed to startle her for a second, but then a slow smile spread across her lips. She leaned forward and pressed a soft kiss against my mouth. The words caught in my throat. I stared at her, wide-eyed, then scrambled back, my face flushing as I looked away. Damn it, my first kiss. Lillian and I had dated, but we'd never even kissed. And today, this woman had just stolen it so casually. I opened my mouth to yell at her, but then I clamped it shut. I realized it was useless to talk today. She clearly had no intention of letting me finish a sentence. So I didn't bother. I just turned and headed for the door again. "Connor, whether you work here or haul bricks, you're working for me either way. How about I pay you $1 million a year to be my personal assistant?" Her words stopped me with one foot out the door. The offer was tempting. By now, it was clear she wasn't trying to humiliate me. She still had feelings for me, but there was no future for us. Not after she'd been with someone else while she was abroad. Just 3 months, I told myself. Stay strong for 3 months, make enough money to pay off the debt, and then Chloe and I will leave New York for good. On that note, earning easy money was better than breaking my back. Only a fool would turn this down. Having made my decision, I walked back into the office. I looked at the woman, now focused on her files. "Are you serious?" "Of course. Have you ever known me to lie to you, Connor?" Her question made my expression darken. "Never lied to me? Then what was that picture?" "Fine. What are your daily routines? I need to take notes." Since I was going to be her personal assistant, I had to know her preferences. "Connor, my habits are the same as they've always been. You haven't forgotten, have you?" "How could I forget?" Seeing my silence, Lillian smiled and added, "And I have a cup of coffee while I'm working during the day." The morning flew by. The only thing I did was make Lillian a single cup of coffee. As noon approached, I was about to head out for lunch and get some fresh air, but Lillian insisted I stay and eat with her in the office. It was part of my duties as her personal assistant, she said. The afternoon was spent with me, sitting on the couch, mindlessly scrolling through TikTok videos. But with Lillian's undisguised gaze fixed on me, I felt a growing sense of unease and could only pretend not to notice. Ding! A message popped up from my confidant. What are you up to? How's the new job? After some thought, I decided to tell her everything that had happened today and ask for her advice. After all, for the past 3 years, her suggestions had always been exactly what I needed. After I explained the whole situation, she replied, "Do you still love her?" "Do I?" Of course I did. But every time I remembered that photo of her walking into a hotel with another man, a sharp pain shot through my chest. I do, but there's no way we can be together. I've been trying to forget her for the past 3 years. Across the room, at her desk, a small smile touched Lillian's lips as she read the message. But her eyes quickly dimmed. She looked up at me, sitting calmly on the couch, and a wave of sadness washed over her. Why did Connor have to break up with me? We were so good together. I'm back now, so why won't he take me back? She felt an urge to lock him away, to keep him all to herself. As she stared, her eyes began to redden. She quickly composed herself. No, if I do that, Connor will hate me. Biting her lip, Lillian typed out a few more words. Why not? On the couch, I frowned at the message, debating whether to tell her the real reason. Tell me. That's the only way I can help. Sensing my hesitation, Lillian sent another message. Finally, I threw caution to the wind and told her about the photograph. What photograph? At her desk, Lillian's brow furrowed. She couldn't remember being with any man while she was abroad. She was still a virgin, for God's sake. At the same time, she felt a surge of relief that she'd created this alt account to befriend me after the breakup. Otherwise, with my personality, I would have buried this secret forever. And this photo, who sent it to Connor? Who wanted to break us up? I looked at her message and didn't hesitate for long. I'd already told her this much, so seeing the picture wouldn't matter. I found a photo I had saved for 3 years and sent it. To be honest, it still stung every time I looked at it. The moment Lillian saw the picture on her phone, her eyes turned ice cold. At the same time, she silently cursed me for being such an idiot. She remembered that photo. It was right after she'd gone abroad and asked her father to take care of my family debt. That day, Preston Cole, the man her father wanted her to marry, had shown up overseas. She had been out drinking with her best friend at a bar and had a bit too much. Preston suddenly appeared and got a room at a nearby hotel. He and her friend were just helping her get some rest. Preston had used the opportunity to confess his feelings for her, but she pushed him out of the room and rejected him flat out. She was drunk, but she was perfectly lucid. She never thought someone would have taken a picture, but digging into that could wait. Lillian hadn't forgotten about me. She had to remove this thorn from my side. Otherwise, no matter how hard she tried, I would always keep her at a distance. Did you actually see them go into the hotel room? Why didn't you just ask her about it? Did you ever consider that the man could have been her bodyguard or an assistant? Did it ever occur to you that someone might have taken that photo specifically to break you two up? You don't trust your girlfriend, but you'll trust a single picture? You're a real jerk. The barrage of questions left me stunned. Wait, how did I suddenly become a jerk? But she had a point. I had never considered any of that. At the time, just days after my parents' accident, my mind was consumed with how to pay off the debt. When I saw a picture of my girlfriend entering a hotel with another man, I jumped to the most obvious conclusion. I made up my mind right then and there, without a second thought. Looking at the photo now, it was clearly taken from a distance like a candid shot. A wave of panic washed over me. I had really, truly misunderstood Lillian all this time. We had only dated for a year, but during that time, plenty of rich guys had pursued her. She turned them all down and even made our relationship public. I stole a glance at the woman at the desk. She was engrossed in her work and hadn't noticed my expression. I breathed a sigh of relief and quickly typed a reply. I think I really did misunderstand her. But there's too big of a gap between us now. We're not right for each other. After I pay off the debt in 3 months, I'm leaving New York. The moment the message sent, Lillian's face at her desk went dark. A sudden, uncontainable anger flared up inside her. Connor, do you really think you can run away? If you try, I'll break your legs and lock you up. You can only be mine. Jerk. After sending the 2-word reply, Lillian looked up at me on the couch, feeling even more furious. He'd rather believe a picture than believe me. Fine, Connor, get over here. On the couch, I was still reeling for being called a jerk when Lillian's sharp command made me jump. What was with this woman? First one, now the other. Why was everyone so weird today? Despite my grumbling, I dutifully went over. She was my boss and my creditor, after all. Yes, Ms. Vance. Sit. She pointed to the chair next to her. I sat down, confused. The second I did, a pair of long, stocking-clad legs landed in my lap. I yelped and tried to stand up, to move them, but Lillian's dark glare froze me in place. My legs are sore. Massage them. This is part of your duty as my personal assistant. If you refuse, I'll dock your entire month's salary. I fought back the urge to curse. Taking a deep breath, I looked down at the legs in my lap. Gritting my teeth, I decided to just do it. When we were dating, I'd always loved her legs. This was a great opportunity, and it wasn't like I was losing out. For the rest of the afternoon, my attention was almost entirely focused on Lillian's legs. I was so engrossed that I didn't notice the sly, triumphant look in her eyes. Connor, any higher on my thighs for my boyfriend only, you know? Just as my hand started to unconsciously drift upward, Lillian's teasing voice came from above me. I immediately snatched my hands back, my ears turning red. I quickly retreated to the couch, but the soft, smooth feeling lingered on my palms, making my skin tingle. Damn it, I almost fell for that woman's trap. Connor, it's quitting time. Let me give you a ride home. No, thanks. I'll just get an Uber. The second I heard it was time to leave, I gathered my things and bolted. No way was I letting her drive me home. If she found out where I lived, what was to stop her from showing up at my apartment? Watching my retreating figure, Lillian's eyes were full of amusement. Connor, we have all the time in the world. You're not getting away from me. When I got home, my dear sister immediately ran up to me. Bro, how was your first day? Thinking about the infuriating day I'd had at the office, a blush crept up my neck. I quickly turned my head away. It was fine. What do you want for dinner? I'll cook. Seeing that she was about to ask more questions, I cut her off and disappeared into the kitchen. Behind me, Chloe Graham pouted. Fine, don't tell me. I'll just ask my future sis-in-law. With that, Chloe hurried back to her room, opened her phone, and started chatting with the person pinned to the top of her WhatsApp messages. At dinner, I noticed my sister kept sneaking glances at me. I frowned. Eat your food. Okay. Oof. So what if you're grumpy? You still got put in your place by my sis-in-law at work today. Chloe grumbled internally, but she didn't dare say it out loud. If her brother found out his own sister had conspired with his ex-girlfriend to trick him, she'd be in for a world of hurt. The next morning, I arrived at the office early. My ID badge was ready from the day before, so I took Lillian's private elevator straight to the top floor. As soon as I walked into the office, I saw Lillian already at her desk, working. The moment she saw me, her eyes lit up. She quickly came over, leaned in, and was about to kiss me. Luckily, I reacted fast. Startled, I covered her mouth with my hand and took a quick step back. Ms. Vance, please have some self-respect. You're being disobedient, Connor. This is your duty as my personal assistant. Lillian looked displeased at being stopped. Hearing her words, I frowned slightly. Ms. Vance, if this is part of the job, then I'm afraid I'm not qualified for it. You should find someone else. With that, I turned to leave. Lillian immediately grabbed my arm to stop me. She reluctantly returned to her desk and pointed to the chair beside her. If that's how it is, Connor, then let's continue where we left off yesterday. Before I could react, Lillian slipped off her high heels and placed her legs on the chair across from her. Seeing this, I felt a massive headache coming on. Today, Lillian was wearing a form-fitting white dress with a high slit, and her legs were wrapped in a pair of sheer white stockings. If I looked up even slightly, I could see everything. I stood there frozen for a long moment. Growing impatient, Lillian tapped her fingers on the desk, signaling me to hurry up. Connor, you wouldn't want your entire salary docked this month, would you? If that happens, you'll have to work an extra month to pay off your debt. Threats again, and I was completely powerless against them. Sighing in defeat, I mentally steeled myself, vowing not to let this woman get the better of me. But I had severely overestimated my self-control. While Lillian worked, her feet kept moving restlessly in my lap. Every time they shifted, my peripheral vision would unintentionally catch a glimpse of her upper thigh. My breathing grew heavier. I quickly shut my eyes to regain my composure. But it was as if Lillian knew exactly what I was doing, giving me no chance to recover. Just as she stood up, and I was about to make a run for the restroom to sort myself out, her body suddenly tilted and fell into my lap. I instantly froze, not daring to move a muscle. Connor, do you want me to help you with that? Lillian's fingertips traced my throat. Feeling the change in my body beneath her, she looked at me with sultry eyes, her voice dripping with seduction. Click! Just as the woman in my arms had me, on the verge of surrender, the office door suddenly swung open. Ms. Vance, there's a gallon a week. I was wondering if... Ms. Jacobs burst in, her words trailing off as her eyes went wide, taking in the scene between me and Lillian. In an instant, the atmosphere in the office became painfully awkward. I'm so sorry, Miss Vance. I didn't see anything. Snapping back to her senses, Ms. Jacobs quickly backed out of the room. Her mind, however, was racing. Her boss was usually so cold and distant, but just now it looked like she was seducing Connor. Was Ms. Vance going to have her silenced? Back in the office, I quickly pushed Lillian aside and scrambled out the door, my eyes darting around nervously. I'm just going to step out for a minute. Ahem, Ms. Jacobs, you can come in now. The moment I was outside, I was met with her curious, gossiping stare. I gave an awkward smile and quickly moved out of her way. Inside the office, Lillian's plan, so close to success, had been interrupted. Her expression was dangerously dark. When Ms. Jacobs walked in, she was met with a look so murderous it made her knees feel weak. Ms. Vance, this is an invitation for Mr. Cole for his birthday gala in a week. He was hoping you could attend. Ms. Jacobs respectfully placed the invitation on the desk. The moment Lillian heard the name Preston Cole, her eyes turned to ice. She reached out to toss the invitation into the trash. But then she remembered that the misunderstanding between her and me hadn't been cleared up yet. She hesitated. This gala might be the perfect opportunity. Lillian bit her lip, a perfect plan already forming in her mind. You may go. Tell him I'll be there. Yes, ma'am. Not daring to linger a second longer, Ms. Jacobs took her leave as quickly as possible. Ding! A message notification lit up Lillian's phone. Sis, I want to come work for you. I really can't handle this job. That crazy woman today. The moment she opened the message, Lillian's eyes flashed with cold anger. Crazy woman. Huh. The message was from me, complaining to my confidant about what had just happened. It sounds like your ex is still in love with you. You should just give in and save yourself the trouble. Sis, what kind of advice is that? We're from different worlds. We can't be together. How do you know if you don't try? And why haven't you asked her about the photo? Lillian pressed, unwilling to give up. But after waiting for a long time without a reply, she knew I was on my way back in. Ms. Vance, I said, my voice firm as I re-entered. I hope we won't have a repeat of what happened earlier. Please, let's keep this professional. Thinking about my confidant's message, my heart ached. What good would asking do? What happened, happened. We can never go back. Right now, all I wanted was to pay off the debt. As for the future, I'd take it one step at a time. Fine. Lillian gave me a deep look, but said nothing more, turning her attention back to her work. The next week was relatively peaceful. Although Lillian still made me massage her legs every day and would occasionally walk a little too close, trying to tempt me, she wasn't as bold as she had been that day. I couldn't complain. At least she had toned it down. The strangest thing, though, was my online confidant. Every day, she would try to persuade me to give in to Lillian. If I didn't know she was overseas, I would have sworn she knew Lillian personally. Ms. Vance, if there's nothing else, I should be heading home. I reluctantly let go of the black-stockinged legs in my lap. Just as I was about to stand up, Lillian grabbed my arm and pushed me back down. You're coming with me to a gala tonight, and you can't refuse. It's part of your duty as my personal assistant. I had been bracing for another outrageous move, but thankfully, it was just a party. I followed Lillian to the parking garage and let her drive. When the car stopped in front of a high-end shopping mall, I was a bit confused. Weren't we going to a gala? What were we doing at a mall? Get out. I'm buying you some clothes. You can't show up to a gala dressed so casually. Without another word, Lillian opened her door and got out. I looked down at my own outfit and touched my nose. She had a point. I was definitely not dressed for a gala. We entered a luxury men's suit shop. Ms. Vance, a clerk greeted her. Bring out everything you have at his size. No time was wasted. Lillian led me to a seating area while the staff, though slightly surprised, maintained their professionalism and quickly gathered a selection of suits for me. Soon, several clerks returned with over a dozen suits, each presenting their recommendations. This one for tonight. Wrap up the rest. Lillian's eyes immediately landed on a burgundy suit. I don't need this many, I said, trying to stop the clerk from packing everything up. But Lillian simply wrote down an address. Deliver these to this villa. She then turned to me with a small smile. Connor, you'll have a use for these suits sooner or later. Her smile made me feel deeply uneasy, as if my entire life was being orchestrated by her. Whatever I thought, it's her money, not mine. Let me help you change, Connor. No, thanks. I pushed Lillian out of the dressing room and quickly changed into the suit. The moment I stepped out, Lillian, who was sitting on the couch, immediately stood up. Her eyes lit up as she walked toward me. Connor, you look so tempting in that suit. I just want to eat you up. Her bluntness startled me. I instinctively took a step back, my guard up. Ms. Vance, we should get going. I don't like that name. Lillian frowned, clearly annoyed. Call me something else. Or else. She didn't finish the sentence, but as she took a slow step toward me, I knew it was a threat. Lillian, I blurted out in a panic. Hearing the new name, a satisfied smile spread across her face. Leaving them all, Lillian drove to the most luxurious hotel in New York. She had told me on the way that tonight's gala was a birthday celebration. I wasn't particularly curious. My job was just to stick by her side. But if it was a birthday party, why hadn't Lillian brought a gift? At the hotel entrance, Preston Cole stood greeting guests, dressed in a sharp burgundy suit. As the host of the evening, he normally wouldn't need to be at the door himself. But he was waiting for one person in particular. It had been 3 years since he'd last seen her. The fact that she had agreed to come to his birthday party tonight filled him with excitement. Tonight was not just about his birthday. He had another purpose in mind, and Lillian was the main event. Well, Preston, planning on confessing your love to our dear Lillian tonight? A woman in a couture gown said as she glided up beside him. Seeing her, Preston offered a polite smile. Sophie, it's been a while. The newcomer was none other than Lillian's best friend. She turned you down last time when you were abroad. Aren't you afraid she'll do it again? This time is different, Preston said, his tone full of confidence. Last time, she hadn't broken up with that Connor guy yet. It's been 3 years. The fact that she's willing to come to my party proves she's moved on. Besides, her father fully supports me. With all these people here as witnesses, Lillian won't say no. Sophie didn't say anything more. Compared to Lillian's ex-boyfriend, she thought Preston was a much better match. As they were talking, the purr of an engine announced the arrival of a Rolls-Royce. Preston and Sophie's eyes lit up. Just as they were about to step forward, they saw Lillian emerge from the driver's side, stunning in a matching burgundy gown. Seeing Lillian's dress, Preston's heart soared. Their outfits were a perfect match. Sophie raised an eyebrow, also noticing. But in the next moment, both of their expressions turned to shock. Lillian walked around the front of the car to the passenger side. A man in a burgundy suit, me, stepped out, and Lillian looped her arm through mine as we walked toward them. The sight of my suit, nearly identical to Preston's, was glaringly conspicuous. But what shocked them even more was the fact that I was Lillian's ex-boyfriend. In an instant, Preston's face clouded over. Lillian, who is this? Preston managed a strained smile as she approached, but his gaze, when it landed on me, was dripping with scorn. It was only then that I noticed my suit was a mirror image of his. This is my personal secretary, Lillian announced smoothly. Isn't it personal assistant? I thought. I was about to correct her, but a sharp pinch on my waist stopped me. It was a clear warning. I wisely kept my mouth shut. Personal. Secretary. For a moment, Preston's composure cracked, but he quickly recovered, his eyes filled with jealousy as he looked at me. Then, a smirk played on his lips. Hello, I'm Preston Cole, Lillian's childhood friend. Hearing him introduce himself that way made me freeze. I felt Lillian's arm tighten around mine, and I saw her expression darken. A sudden ache bloomed in my chest. Is she worried I'll be angry? So he was her childhood friend. Then why did she bring me here tonight? To humiliate me? Were all the things she'd done these past few weeks just a game? Ahem, Lillian, Preston, let's not stand around outside. The party's about to start, Sophie interjected, sensing the awkward tension. She quickly pulled Lillian inside the hotel. At that moment, all I wanted to do was leave. But Lillian's grip on my wrist was like iron as she dragged me into the hotel with her. Behind us, Preston stared at our clasped hands, his eyes burning with jealousy. But then he smiled. So what if he's the ex-boyfriend? I have her father's support. In the end, Lillian will be mine. Enjoy your moment, because it won't last. Inside the grand ballroom, guests mingled, celebrating Preston Cole's birthday. I sat alone in a corner, a silent observer, feeling completely out of place. Lillian had been pulled away by her best friend, and they were deep in conversation. A bitter smile touched my lips. Any positive feelings that had started to grow for Lillian over the past week had evaporated in an instant. All I wanted now was for this night to be over so I could go home. Suddenly, the lights dimmed. The entire ballroom fell silent. As I wondered what was happening, a single spotlight illuminated Lillian, who was now standing in the center of the room. Then, Preston, also in his burgundy suit and holding a large bouquet of flowers, walked slowly toward her from the opposite side of the stage. Under the excited gazes of the crowd, Preston dropped to one knee in front of Lillian. Lillian, I love you. Will you be my girlfriend? The room erupted in cheers, with people shouting for her to say yes. Watching this from my corner, a sharp pain pierced my chest. I pushed my chair back, ready to leave. But then Lillian spoke, her voice as cold as ice. Preston Cole, what on earth makes you think I would say yes to you? We're childhood friends. We grew up together. Huh? Lillian let out a cold laugh. 3 years ago, when I was abroad, you were the one who had this picture taken, weren't you? She pulled out her phone, and an image was projected onto the large screen behind her. Why don't you tell me, when exactly did I go to a hotel room with you? The moment he saw the photo, Preston's face went white. He scrambled for an explanation. Lillian, I was just trying to do what was best for you. That Connor guy isn't worthy. Shut up. Who are you to meddle in my affairs? Lillian cut him off, her eyes filled with icy rage. If it weren't for him, she and I would never have had this misunderstanding. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't still be refusing to get back together. If it weren't for him, they wouldn't have been separated for 3 years. When we were little, your father promised us to each other. Preston said, desperately trying to salvage the situation. The Vance family is under my control now. Who I choose to marry is my decision, and mine alone. With that final declaration, Lillian turned her back on him and hurried in my direction. Meanwhile, I had been frozen in my seat from the moment the photo appeared on the screen. How did Lillian get that picture? I never sent it to anyone. Wait, I sent it to my online confidant. Suddenly, the pieces clicked into place. The more I thought about it, the angrier I became. It all made sense now, why my confidant had been pushing me to get back with Lillian. She was Lillian. The feeling of betrayal was overwhelming. For 3 whole years, she had been manipulating me. I shot up from my chair and stormed toward the exit. On the stage, Lillian saw me leaving and panicked, rushing to follow me. Just then, Sophie appeared and blocked her path. Lillian, you and Connor can't be together. Your father. Get out of my way. Sophie, I know you were part of this too. When did my life become your business? Lillian shoved her friend aside and ran after me. Behind her, Sophie stumbled and fell. At that moment, her phone rang. It was her father. As soon as she answered, she was met with a barrage of frantic yelling. Her eyes widened in disbelief. For the sake of man, her best friend was destroying her family's company. She wasn't the only one. Preston was also getting calls about his own company. Evidence of their corporate crimes was being released to the public. It was over. Lillian Vance, he thought, you are truly ruthless. Outside the hotel, I stood on the curb, trying to flag down a taxi. After several minutes, no taxi came, but a Rolls-Royce pulled up beside me. The window rolled down to reveal Lillian's stunning face. Get in. If you don't want anything to happen to your sister, you will. Before I could say a word, her threat cut me off, and my heart clenched. What about my sister? Lillian didn't answer, just started driving. I didn't care about anything else at that moment. I frantically dialed Chloe's number, but it went straight to voicemail. Your sister is at my place. She's perfectly safe. The car stopped at a deserted park. Realizing I'd been tricked, my temper flared. Lillian, that online confidant. It was you, wasn't it? Why did you lie to me? Lillian scoffed. My accusation was the last straw. She unbuckled her seatbelt and climbed over the console, straddling my lap. Her eyes bore into mine. Connor, you were going to break up with me without any explanation. How else was I supposed to find out why? And you have the nerve to be angry with me now? Do you really think I'm so cheap that I would cheat on my own boyfriend? I was your girlfriend, and you threw me